Are you sure they won't catch us? Are you sure it's safe? Asked Hifa at Chisholm with concern, her face reflecting all her fear, as she was about to escape from the school by a secret passage in the lockup. This is not the first or second time we do this. Trust us and follow us. But if you are not brave enough, go back to the boarding school and read your books as usual, replied Shem, visibly irritated. I wonder why you ask such a stupid question. Didn't you say you wanted to be one of us? Added Izini. Ifa, not wanting to offend them, lowered her head in silence. Ifa wanted to feel part of the big girls at Bryan College. So she summoned up all her courage and escaped from the school with her. Ifa had been admitted to Bryan College a few months ago thanks to a scholarship as a pensioner. She came from a very poor environment, but she was bright and intelligent, which allowed her to take a scholarship for this prestigious school. Upon her arrival at Bryan College, Ifa took her studies very seriously, following the advice of her parents before she left the village for the city. She avoided problems and was careful not to break the rules and regulations of the school. However, Ifa began to get distracted when she met a girl called Chisholm. Unlike Ifa, Chisholm came from a very rich family. Her parents were politicians, and she got everything she wanted. She was a spoiled child, known for making fun of and intimidating students from modest backgrounds, often with her friend Izini, who was also from a wealthy family. Ifa envied Chisholm and admired the way she lived at school. She could buy everything she wanted and was respected by everyone. This pushed Ifa to get closer to her. Ifa's friends warned her several times to stay away from Chisholm and Izini, but Ifa refused to listen to them. One day, Chisholm and Izini told Ifa that they were planning to escape from school at night to go to a club, and that they would like her to join them if they really wanted to be part of their group. Ifa felt very happy and agreed to accompany them. At the time, Ifa was frightened, but she gathered her courage and decided to follow them. When they left the campus in hiding, Chisholm and Izini changed their clothes for short, taut dresses. They also gave Ifa a dress and asked her to wear it. But Ifa was not comfortable with the outfit, because it was too short and revealing. This dress is too short for me, are exposed and my back is uncovered. You don't have another dress? Asked Ifa, uncomfortable. Are you serious? Too short? You want to go to the club dressed like an old woman, or what? Retorted Chisholm. Listen, if you don't want to wear this dress, go back to the boarding school. I told you not to take these village clothes with us. If you refuse, then go back to school and stay away from us, threatened she. Under pressure, she erased her clothes from her menace and put on the dress we had given her. The dress was indeed very short and molded her body like a second skin, revealing her thighs and exposing a large part of her body. Once ready, Izini took out a phone she had hidden in her backpack and called an unknown number. She informed the person she was ready. Less than 10 minutes later, a luxury car stopped in front of her. The driver went out, greeted Chisholm warmly, then asked them to get in the car to take them to the club. Ifa felt uncomfortable, but she didn't have the courage to refuse. They all got in the car, with Chisholm sitting in the front, while Kazini and Ifa sat in the back. In a few minutes, they arrived at the club. The place was crowded, and Ifa saw scenes that made her uncomfortable and young girls in uncomfortable positions with men. Let's go inside, says Chisholm, turning Ifa's attention away from what she was watching. They all entered the club. Inside, the place was full of people drinking and dancing to the sound of deafening music. Ifa, not feeling comfortable, went to sit near the bar, while Chisholm and Iceni accompanied a man in another part of the club. Observing the atmosphere of the place with amazement, a seductive man came to sit next to her. "Hi, beautiful," cried the man so that Ifa could hear him despite the music. "Good evening, sir. My name is Aa. What is your name? And why is a beautiful girl like you sitting alone?" "I am sorry. I am not talking to strangers. I am here with my friends. They will be back soon," replied Ifa. "Do not be afraid. I will not harm you." I have already told you my name. I find you very beautiful, and I would like to be your friend. Ifa smiles shyly in front of Emma's compliments. It was the first time that a man was interested in her, which made her feel desired, but also nervous. The words of her parents, when she was admitted to the boarding school, resonated in her head. There will always be time for boys. Focus on your studies, so that it would not be a distraction. Ifa thanked Emma for her compliments, but refused to give her her name. Emma insisted to convince her, but Ifa remained silent. Finally, Emma handed her a piece of paper with her number. Just as he gave it to her, Chisholm and Ishini reappeared from where they had left. They were very surprised to see Emma with Ifa, but before they reached their table, Emma had already eclipsed. "Please, I'm not comfortable here. Can we go back to school before someone notices our absence?" asked Ifa. "It's still early, and no one will know we're out. You have to learn to relax. Having a drink is fun," replied Chisholm. "Try to integrate. You don't have to show everyone that you're a village girl," added Izini. They ordered a few glasses of alcohol and convinced Ifa to drink it. After swallowing his first glass, Ifa gave up, finding the taste unpleasant. She sat down and watched Chisholm and Izini dance with different men, drink and smoke. At 1 a.m., they took a taxi to return to school. They changed clothes and went back to the boarding house without being caught. The next morning, the two girls questioned Tifa. "The boy who was with you at the club when we came back, what were you talking about?" "Do you know who he is?" asked Isini. "No, he said his name was Emma and that he'd like to be my friend. But I told him I wasn't interested. He gave me his number anyway," replied Tifa. Both girls were surprised. Isini approached Tifa and said, "Emma is one of the richest men in this town. She has a big house and several cars. Imagine having someone like her as a little friend. You would have nothing to lose in life. But I don't want to, and I don't need a little friend. My parents warned me to stay away from men or boys. They asked me to focus on my studies." Retorka Ifa, "Why are you so childish? You don't want to have your own phone with enough money to buy what you want to eat without being satisfied with this concert in the canteen. I have a little friend, and yet I'm doing well in my studies. So who said that having a little friend would make you fail? Give us his number. We'll call him immediately," Kazum insisted. Ifa hesitated at first, but she simply gave in to the pressure of Kazum and Izini. She took out a piece of paper containing Emma's number and used a hidden cell phone to call her. Then she stretched the phone to Ifa and went out to check if anyone was coming, because using cell phones was strictly forbidden in their boarding school. The phone rang for a moment before Emma got out. "Hello, who is it?" he asked, and explained to him that she was the girl he had given his number to the day before. Emma immediately remembered her, and they started to talk. From that day on, Emma and Ifa became very close and often spoke on the phone every weekend. Ifa regularly escaped with Chisholm and Isini to go see Emma, who took them to clubs and spent a lot of money for her. Emma even offered Ifa a phone, and it didn't take long before she fell deeply and madly in love with him. Ifa stopped taking her studies seriously and adopted a disheveled lifestyle, similar to that of Chisholm. Her school results began to suffer, and she stopped going to her old serious friends to join the Chisholm group. A fateful weekend, she escaped as usual to meet Emma. But this time, Emma did not take them to the club. He took them to his place and announced that he was organizing a party for his birthday. Upon arrival, the girls were surprised by the grandeur and beauty of his house. There were already many people, drinking and celebrating the sound of a very loud music. Emma told Ifa that he had a gift for her in his room. Ifa, trusting him, followed him to his room. Once in the room, Emma locked the door and showed her a beautiful new dress. However, he told her that she had to sleep with him to be able to bring the gift. Ifa was shocked by his request and replied, "I am sorry, but I don't think I can let you sleep with me. I did my best to preserve my virginity until my wedding night." Emma tried to convince her, "But you love me, and I promise to marry you, and I will give you everything you want." Despite these tactics, Ifa refused categorically. This made Emma angry. He pushed her on the bed and began to tear her clothes. Ifa cried out all his strength, but no one heard him because of the deafening music of the party. Emma ended up raping her, taking her virginity by force. Ifa felt broken and betrayed. After leaving her in this state, Emma returned to the party, leaving her alone in her room. Ifa cried all the tears of her body. Her clothes were torn, and she had no choice but to put on the new dress that Emma had given her. When she went down the stairs, Shizam saw it, and was so captivated by the dress that she didn't even notice the pain on Ifa's face, nor her trembling legs at every step. "Please, bring me back to the boarding school," said Ifa, tears falling on her cheeks. Realizing that Ifa was suffering deeply, accompanied Izini to accompany her discreetly to the boarding school that night. Back in their dorm, Ifa told them everything that had happened. But, to her great surprise, they showed no remorse. "Why do you behave like a child?" exclaimed Izini. "Did you really think he was going to offer you all this without waiting for anything in return? Do you prefer to live like an untouchable poor girl or to enjoy life fully? There is always a first time for everything, so it is not serious," said Shizam, wounded by their words. Ifa burst into tears and accused them of being responsible for what had happened to her. But she had nothing to do with it. They agreed to advise her to take drugs against pain, then moved away. From that day on, Ifa moved away from her, having learned her lesson hard. Emma continued to call him, but Ifa wanted him to stay away from her and never contact her again. She regretted not having listened to her friends, who had kept her away from bad visits and unhealthy envy. Ifa took her studies seriously and avoided any distraction, but she ignored that her problems were only starting. A pain crossed her stomach, and she rushed to the toilet to vomit a white substance. She did not understand what was happening to her until one of her close friends, whose mother was a doctor, suggested that she could be pregnant. Ifa, a credulous person at first, did a pregnancy test. The positive result left her devastated. Confused and depressed, she did not know what to do. She thought about talking to her parents, but she didn't have the courage to confess all the mistakes she had made. After a lot of reflection, she decided to call Emma. Finally taking courage in both hands, she called him. He immediately hung up and recognized his voice. "Good girl, I see you finally regained your senses. Do I have to wait to see you this weekend?" said Emma. "Emma, I'm calling to tell you that I'm pregnant." A long silence followed. Then Emma took the floor. "What does this concern me? You'd better look for your bastard's father instead of trying to stick him to me," he replied coldly. Ifa didn't believe her ears. She checked the screen on her phone to make sure she was talking to Emma, the man who had promised her marriage and eternal love. "Emma, what do you mean? You are the first man to see my nudity, and now you want to deny this pregnancy?" Emma burst into anger. "Listen to me, my dear. You'd better go and abort this bastard in your belly, or look for the real father. And never call my number back," he threw before hanging up and blocking his number. Ifa tried to call him back, but his number was unreachable. Desperate, she escaped from the hospital the following week to go to Emma's. But she was shocked by her life by discovering Emma with a woman who was presenting herself as her wife, accompanied by their two beautiful children. It was at this moment that Ifa understood that she was doomed. She returned to the boarding school and cried all the tears from her body. Realizing that she had no other choice, she went to ask for the help of Shizam and Izini to stop her pregnancy. But she rejected her too. "You are alone, Ifa. I don't want to have anything to do with you," said Shizam. "You always act as if you were better than all of us. Please, don't get us involved in your nonsense," she added. Ifa felt desperate. She started looking on the internet for ways to end a pregnancy. Unfortunately for her, she came across a website where people recommended strange medicines. Ifa bought these medicines and the appropriate price orders, and began to bleed profusely. She was taken to the hospital in a hurry, then transferred to a large hospital to undergo surgery to save her life. After surgery, her parents were informed, just like the principal of the school. They learned that IFA had attempted to abort by taking inappropriate drugs, which had almost cost her life. Although the doctors managed to save her, she lost her uterus during the intervention and could never have children. When IFA learned this news, she cried and cried. But her tears could not erase the past or the bad decisions she had made. She spent the rest of her life in shame and pain, using lessons from other students so that they would not make the same mistakes as her. Kazum and Izini were also expelled from school to have broken the rules, and Emma was arrested by the police for forcing Ifa to have relationships with him. The moral of this story reminds us of the importance of carefully choosing our friends and not giving in to the temptation to do things with which we are not comfortable simply to please someone. No matter the pressure, always remember your moral principles and hold on to them firmly. Do not forget where you come from. In everything you do, keep your values in mind and ask yourself whether your loved ones would be proud of your choices or not.